from a flow at Mount Warning 25 to 30 million years ago. Mount Warning's just down into New South Wales, just under 4,000 feet high. Now, to go by road from Mount Warning to the Glasshouse Mountains up there, which is 50 kilometres away as you're looking at them, and an hour and a quarter's drive north of Brisbane up on the Sunshine Coast, but to go by road from a Wollumbar to the Glasshouse Mountains would take one to Mount Cootha. May I suggest that we have just 5 minutes here, if you would, 5 or 6 minutes. There are toilets here if you desperately need to use them. However, there will be toilet facilities again in 10 minutes' time when we get down to our morning tea place, if you're not in dire straits at the moment. Alright, but just a 5-minute view here, and for those of you who may be interested, if you'd like to come with me up onto the top of the lookout here, there are 2 levels of lookout. The bottom level is quite large, but it's not nearly as high as the top level where the little tiny white roof is. I'll show you what I mean in a moment. But if you care to look up just a few steps to where the covered-in area is, where the little white flat roof above the covered-in area is, that's the very highest point at the rotunda here. And in fact, when you come up there, if you're interested, I'll explain and point out just quickly for you Brisbane skyline, show you where we've been this morning, and also where we're going late on in the morning and early afternoon. Now, it's a little bit hazy here, so we won't be able to see as much as what I'd like, but anyway, better than having it pouring raining, I suppose. By the way, there's a ramp here, and there are steps on the first section. As you'll see, when you leave the bus and walk across the driveway, across the car park, you'll get to steps and a ramp that go up to the very first level. Now, the idea is, if you're under 21, you walk up the steps. If you're over 21, you walk up the ramp, okay? Alright, now I'm not going to tell you how old I am, but you see which one I walk up, if you will. And by the way, I'll be watching to see which one you're walking up to, whether it's the ramp or the steps. Now, at the top of the ramp, when you get to the first level, there are only steps, not a ramp, up to the little white covered-in area. When we do get to the top here, you'll actually be able to see, as you can every day, unless it's pouring with rain, but you'll actually be able to see 200 degrees around the compass and see Brisbane skyline that much. That's about 2/3 of the expanse of Brisbane here, right up on top. If you'd like to come up there just for 5 minutes, and we'll have a talk about the geography of Brisbane. There are the 2 groups of buildings directly in front of us. We might just let this traffic go past because we're going a little bit slow for them. Everybody's in a mad hurry today, aren't they? Anyway, have another look there, directly in front of us, folks. On the right, the church, and on the right-hand side of the church, the lead-like glass, And on the left of the church, the other building there, the dark red brick building, together with other new buildings behind, is the school complex nowadays. But that building to the left, as you see it, is the old hospital. Down off to our right-hand side, getting away from schools, is the quarry here. Nothing special about that, but it is owned by Brisbane City Council. That's where they get most of their rock fill to make and fill up, etc., Brisbane's roads. Believe it or not, that's their main rock fill quarry in Brisbane, or at least as far as getting rock from. One in the city and one out here, which was already started. So now we have 10 years later, 2 botanical gardens. But this is the ones that have the planetarium. That's it over there on the right, the white building. Sir Thomas Townsend Brisbane Planetarium. He was an astronomer. And in that little archway there, the roof, that's 12.2 metres in diameter, in case you're interested, just having a quick look across there. But inside there is projected an artificial galaxy. However, that's like you go outside at night time, right, and you look upstairs and you see the stars and the moon and the sky. But they only have tours through there by appointment, and most of it's just of an educational nature, you know, for kids that come out here and do a little bit of astronomy study. Anyway, over to our left is the hothouse, 35 degrees, constant temperature, day and night, is the temperature that the little water lilies and the fishies that live in the hothouse actually live in. Now, morning tea is here this morning for you folks. Buy what you want. It's up to your own selves. When you walk down the pathway on our left here.
Pwede na rin. Karang-karang garden.
Of Australia, 21.5% if you like. We don't have very many people living here. Brisbane, as you see it, over there to our right hand side, with it's 1.157 million in there working and doing their little bit in a city today. Is a city which is only about a third, a little more than a third the size of Melbourne, where yours truly comes from, and about a quarter the size of Sydney. And just under a quarter the size of Hong Kong. It's about a ninth the size of Bangkok, which has got 11 million people. So they're a very young city, very young state, and lots of room to spread out. And not very many people living here doing it. That drive them, those courteous gentlemen, are the people which totally make up around about 1,000 of the 1,500 on the council's staff. So there we are. The Department of Transport, as you can see by my explanation, is definitely the very largest of the city council departments. In fact, they've only got 4 major departments, but that's the biggest one. Now, as we make our way out along to Lone Pine, a couple of little things for you. May I just ask you, have you heard of a gentleman called Shirahama? In fact, he was on the news this morning. about a little matter that he was discussing with Mr. Goss that didn't seem to go down too well with the journalist that was reporting the issue. Whether he's a bit biased or whatever, I don't know. Anyway, the gentleman's name wasn't actually mentioned, but his position was. Have you heard of him at all? Shira, come on. You haven't heard of him? My goodness me, I'm going to show you where he lives very shortly. Alright, so we'll have a look at his house in a few minutes' time. Getting on to a few things with relation to facts and figures for you. You don't see many Japanese at all. Now, getting on to money invested in Queensland, mind you, I don't have the most up-to-date figures all the time. These figures here are a week old, so if you'll forgive me for that. $1.8 billion is currently invested in Queensland. In fact, I forgot to add on the $72 million that the Japanese just paid for the Four Seasons Hotel in Cairns. So it's $1.8 billion and $72 million on the end of that, which the Japanese people at number one on the left. There it is there.
Wow.
Now, if we went over to the right-hand pillar, pressed the magic button and said hello, he'd be looking at us from somewhere in there, I guess. He'd say, oh, it's Greg. How are you, mate? And I'd say, very well, thanks. I've got 9 here for a Devonshire tea. We've just eaten at Mount Cootha, but we're hungry again. And, of course, he'd then press the magic button. The gates would open and in we'd go. But that's where he lives. We've got 16 altogether, consulates, or consul rather, for the various consulates in Queensland who do not live here. We have 26 consulate altogether. 16 of the gentlemen, the consuls themselves, don't live in Queensland, right? Like Spain, Portugal, Argentina, because those places overseas as countries are only big enough to have one representative from their country to Australia, not one representative to Australia and to each state. But because of our Japanese population here, regarding tourists, etc., well, we've got enough common anyway until they get their 30,003 hectares of eucalyptus trees fully planted and underway. But at the moment here at the sanctuary, the staff go out and they travel about 250 kilometres every day to collect the various types of eucalyptus feeds, or leaves rather, for these little koala bears, which are kind of funny little creatures. They're like a good lady, aren't they? Because they never do the same thing twice. They're very temperamental. They may like eucalyptus leaves of one sort today, but tomorrow, if you give them that same leaf, they won't like it. They'll knock it back. You see? Now, I can see a couple of gentlemen on board smiling away there. Anyway, sanctuary, there is a little information down here on the entrance gate regarding Lone Pine. But in 1964, the Robinson family took over the running ownership of the establishment here, which is situated on about 50 or so acres of ground. And you'll be walking through just a very small portion of that today down in the sanctuary. Now, a man called Mr. Kamori. He's got a real long name, but that's it in short, and that's how you talk to him if you were speaking to him. Kamori. Mr. Kamori is the certain Japanese businessman.
Kaya din nila bili ng Japanese.
Tindi na.
Ha? Hindi talaga hapon na.
It's the only way I can wear off those sponge
Bantu?
They smell awful. And on top.
Hello, coffee, you say? What do you want?
Saan siya? Nasa coach siya? Saan siya nakalagay tatay?
VHS.
Ayaw niya. Wala kang lilitin.
Up she comes.
Ancha, ain't that beautiful?
Hawakan mo, pe. Para na.
Ain't
Guess who?